Hello everyone.
Hello.
We're just getting started. Looks like we're joining up on the Instagram account now. We're live on Facebook. Thanks for tuning in this week. It's been a crazy one. It's the week before transmittal. So why don't you hit us with the statistics on bills?
Well, so this week has been super nuts. Throughout the whole session we've had, the legislators have been hearing roughly 100 to 130 bills a week, and this week they heard over 400. So, and there was 200 just in the last 2 days. So we've been busy tracking all of that and seeing which ones we had to tune in on, and I believe that we testified on just about 30 of them this week. So we've been busy, and we still have some more to go.
Yes, a few more this afternoon. And we're going to hit a few high points. I'm going to step up here and try to peek at comments every once in a while, because we don't want to just drone on about bills you don't care about, but we want to give you the information that you want to hear. So we're going to hit a few, and we're looking for your questions. Please do comment if you have any questions or if you have any specific bills you're wondering about.
Yes.
Also a reminder, our members will be getting an updated list of all the bills coming out today.
Yep, at some point. You'll be getting that today with all of the bills we've been testifying on since the beginning of the session. And it'll say our position on it, as well as where it is in its process. Some have already been signed by the governor, and some are on its way there. So you'll be looking out for that. And if there's anything that we didn't touch on today that you have questions about, that you heard on, or saw on there that you have questions about, you can just respond to that email. And either Nicole or I will get back to you.
Yes. So we're going to jump right in on a couple bills that we mentioned last week, and we're just going to try to hit these really quick because we have to get back up to the Capitol. We came back to our office to record this so that we weren't talking to our phones in the middle of the Capitol because it's very busy there today, which shouldn't be surprising given how many bills are being heard. So we talked about some meat processing bills. The first one we'll hit on is House Bill 336, which is the one that would set up the framework to allow for interstate compacting with other states to allow the shipment of state-inspected meat. We, as you know, opposed that bill because it violates the Federal Meat Inspection Act, putting our state meat processing program into jeopardy. And what that means is that under federal law allows states to have their own state and poultry meat inspection programs as long as those programs are operating on an at least equal to status. FSIS sent a letter last week or 2 weeks ago now, time is flying, to our Department of Livestock explaining that House Bill 336 would put our at least equal to status into jeopardy and basically jeopardize our state meat inspection program. That's very concerning to us because there are 3 types of processors in the state: federally inspected, state inspected, and custom exempt. And they all serve a very important purpose in the state, and we need all 3 because our biggest issue here is processing capacity. And if we lose our state inspection program, that processing capacity is going to only get smaller or at least put it into jeopardy, and we don't want uncertainty for those plants. This directly impacts them, but farmers and ranchers have a symbiotic relationship with these plants, right? Because if we can't get our animals processed here, whether it's just for our own consumption or if we're doing direct to consumer marketing, that's obviously going to be a very big concern. So we opposed that bill. We've been talking with the sponsor about our concerns, and he did offer an amendment that puts a contingency on that bill, which will say that the bill cannot be implemented until one of 2 things happens. One, either the U.S. Congress ratifies or approves our interstate compact, or 2, that that a court of competent jurisdiction has shown or has ruled that this interstate compact would not violate or not be in conflict with the federal law. So that's interesting, and we will be looking forward to seeing if or what FSIS has to say about those changes to the bill, because it did pass out of committee with those amendments on it on Thursday evening and is now moving through the process. I talked way longer about that than I planned to, but it's an in-depth issue. So I'm just peeking to see if there's any questions. So if I miss them, I'm sorry, we'll go back through and look. But anyways, that bill is still moving through the process. We're going to do what we can to make sure that we protect the processing capacity in the state and our farmers and ranchers' ability to utilize it. The other one is Senate Bill 279 on that subject. That bill would allow custom exempt plants to sell meat commercially. The first problem is it has the violation of federal law associated with it as well. Additionally, our members actually passed a policy just this year expressing our support for how things currently are, where state and federally inspected plants are able to sell meat, but custom exempts are able to process meat for the owner of the animal. We support keeping it that way, unless, of course, the custom exempt producer buys the meat from a USDA inspected plant and then further processes it at their plant, which is also legal under current law. That bill, we opposed that 279, and it was defeated in House Ag Senate Ag last night about 7:30. So yes. We've been burning the midnight oil. Yep. So that's just a quick summary on those. Let's jump into another subject.
Yeah, so one of the other things that happened throughout this week was a couple of different conversations about liability. So there was one that was heard yesterday that had to do strictly with irrigation, and so that one really helped because it clarified what irrigation structures are, whether it's the ditch or different kinds of structures. So, and then after that, it talked about the liability that folks face with people going on those irrigation ditch. I mean, a lot of stories were told, people were walking by them and being on that property and then got into the ditch for whatever reason, whether it was on purpose or accident, and then something really tragic happened. So what this does is it limits some of the liability and making sure that unless there's gross negligence, that people are not faced with any sort of lawsuit. Because in the past, the law stated that just irrigation ditch. So if it was some different kind of structure, then the
like a canal or something like that.
Yeah, so our irrigators could be liable for it. So this helps clear that up. And that did pass Senate Ag last night. Again, pretty late in the evening, but we were happy to see that one pass. And then there was another one that was heard this morning. And that one was more about the landowners and liability that they might have for trespassers coming on their land. And it was a pretty short and simple bill. It basically said that if trespassers come on the land, that the landowners, they owe no care to show that their land is safe for trespassers because they weren't supposed to be there in the first place. Nicole testified on that, so there might be some more details that she wants to share about that.
The hearing went really well. I think it was very apparent that it's almost surprising that this isn't already currently the law. But like Rachel said, this bill just clarifies that a landowner does not, or property owner does not owe any, duty to a trespasser and cannot be held liable for injuries incurred while the person is trespassing, unless, of course, there is willful or wanton misconduct. Mm-hmm. So, and that's not something that farmers and ranchers are going to do, right? But we want to protect farmers and ranchers in the case that if someone is trespassing on your property and they get injured, you should not be liable for that. And I was able to make the case that, our properties are large and it's not like a building that you can lock a door on or put a sign up, right? So this is particularly important to us, especially since there are things on our properties, even like, a washout that say someone was driving across your land when they weren't supposed to and ran off there and got injured. So even natural features. So it'll provide limited liability there, and sure appreciate Senator Lang for carrying that and for all the work that the Montana Chamber of Commerce has done on this, because it is their bill and we're very proud to be able to support it.
Absolutely. Let's see. We can talk really quickly about a hearing that's happening this afternoon that we have a member coming down for. So again, as we always say, we're always happy to have members participate in in these hearings, and we've had a couple this week and another one that's actually coming to Helena for it. So this one has to do with the Big Sky National Heritage Area, and another really timely bill. We had some great policy development this past year, and this one that came through said that we oppose the Big Sky National Heritage Area, and especially impacts folks up in like the Choteau and Cascade counties. and that's where that policy actually came from. This bill that's coming through would put an extra layer on some of that stuff so that the state legislature in Montana has to approve that before anything happens. And the biggest part of that is that, first off, it helps protect a lot of private property rights, and second off, it allows a layer of elected leadership to actually share some support. So with the National Heritage Area, the board that talks about that and works with that stuff is not elected, and there's not an easy way for property owners or for people that are in Montana to share their opinions and maybe even vote or say no to it and oppose that option. So with this bill, it adds that extra layer of protection. Again, we appreciate the work that was put on this. The Montana stock growers were a huge group that helped support this and push this bill through. We're happy to support that as well, and of course excited to see members coming down from all different kinds of organizations to show what that means to them.
Yes, it'll be great to have actual farmers and ranchers in the Capitol this afternoon. It's always great when you guys come down and join us via Zoom as well. Mm-hmm. So just to give you an example, Rachel mentioned we're in on about 30 bills this week. Just to give a little illustration to how diverse these topics can be, we actually were in Senate Fish and Game Committee on several bills yesterday. One that I'll mention is Senate Bill 306. It actually is a bill that expands the Fish and Game Commission to 7 members, 1 member for each district. And also the part that that drew us in as supporters was that it requires 4 of those members to be landowners and active ag producers. So obviously, we have policy to support that. It makes sense to us that farmers and ranchers would have a voice on that important commission because wildlife reside on our properties, of course. We farmers and ranchers participate in many Fish, Wildlife, and Parks programs, and of course are the ones who either allow or disallow public hunting and a number of other things. And the one other point I made is that it's often overlooked that many farmers and ranchers are sportsmen and sportswomen themselves. So we have the perspective of the sporting side and also the landowner side, which will be really important to the commission and the important decisions they make. So we supported that bill. Again, another one sponsored by Senator Lang. He's been a very busy man.
And we appreciate his work.
Yes. And then I guess another, to show the other side of that, we also actually opposed a bill, Senate Bill 204, on the 12, it has to do with how milk is labeled in this state. Mm-hmm. And so obviously milk is a ag commodity, but our perspective on this bill and the policy that we use to oppose it is from a consumer side. Mm-hmm. So currently in Montana, your milk is labeled with a 12-day sell-by date. That means 12 days, so the date on your milk is 12 days after pasteurization. So that's just when the store has to sell it by. You still have many, many days of freshness after that. That's actually set in rule. So Senate Bill 204 actually seeks to make a sell-by date, a use-by date, which would allow milk to be sold in grocery stores up to that date. And the problem with making this change is that when you have the milk that has the sell-by date, you get to have more of that freshness in your home home shelf. And so obviously those of us who live far out of town don't go to the grocery store every day, and when we do, we stock up and we want to have fresh milk on our shelves. So we oppose that bill to maintain the way we currently label our milk and provide more freshness on your shelves.
Yep.
And I'm seeing if we have a question. Okay. David says, thanks. We thank you for tuning in. I know JM commented earlier that he is watching while feeding.
Thanks for making it a priority to tune in and listen to us. We appreciate all those that are tuning in to ask questions and to comment. Of course, whether it's live or later, we really like interacting with our members. So we love it if you're watching and tuning in. And let's see if there's any more questions.
I'm just scrolling through. Gosh, I don't want to be that close to the camera. And I'm not seeing any other questions, so I'm going to probably sign off unless you want to add anything.
I think that's enough, but thanks for tuning in, and we're going to go run back up to the Capitol and get ready for our last couple of hearings for this week. So we'll see you guys. We probably will not see you guys next week. Next week is the transmittal break. There will not be much going on, so I don't think we'll have much to tell you, but...
Well, we could explain a little bit about how this works. So we've been talking about transmittal, but we haven't. Most of you probably know what that means, but some of you might not. So any general bill that does not have an appropriation in it, which or does not have money in it, is or known as a revenue bill, must be transmitted by the 45th legislative day, which is March 4th this year. Is that right?
Yeah.
It's the middle of next week. So that means. That's why there were so many bills this week, because they all had to have their hearing, they had to be passed out of committee, and they have to get through second and third reading on the floor of their original house to be transmitted to the other side by that deadline. So there were tons of long hearings this week. I think the longest one we saw was House Judiciary with 20 bills in it.
Yeah,
Is it any longer than that?
I don't think so, but both Judiciary, Senate and House, they're doing a lot of hard work. I think they're still meeting on Saturday to get all their work accomplished. So
That's right.
We've all been working hard, from the legislators to the lobbyists and everyone else in between.
And the staff, for sure. But those long hearings mean that next week there will be long floorboards. And I don't mean like the floor of your car. I mean the agenda for each floor session will have a lot of bills for them to get through. There could possibly be hearings next week, but probably not, because they'll be focusing on getting things across the finish line.
Yep.
So I think that's enough general chit-chat from us.
I think so too. But thanks everyone for tuning in, and we'll sign off now. But if you're watching it later on, just feel free to drop your comments and we'll get back to them. And with that, have a good Friday, have a good weekend. We'll see you in a little while.
Bye.
Bye.